Hey guys, and welcome to the English Rhetorical Skills and Style video. So in terms of the English section, rhetorical skills and style take up about 47% of the types of questions you're going to see. These questions range anything from diction questions to wordiness, all the way to organization questions where you're going to rearrange the sentences within a paragraph or the paragraphs within a passage. So we're going to go ahead and start off smaller, and then we'll work up to the organization kind of writing strategy sorts of questions. So we're going to go ahead and start off with our first thing, which will be transition words. So when we think about transition words, we're thinking about a few things. The basic idea is that a transition should link two sentences, two paragraphs, two clauses. The idea is you're taking two ideas and you're putting a word in the sentence or in the paragraph, etc., that's going to explain the relationship between those two ideas. And there's a bunch of different relationships that you can have if you're looking at a transition word, but there's a few that come up very often. So the first would be contrast. So words that indicate there's some sort of contrast between two ideas would be things like despite, but, yet, although, and while. So the idea is that within a sentence you could use despite, but, yet, although, while, however, etc. if there's a contrast between two ideas. So although the marathon runner was thirsty, he limited himself to small amounts of water because he didn't want to get sick. Makes sense because he's thirsty, so we would assume that he'd want to drink lots of water very quickly, but he's being really careful. He doesn't want to end up getting really sick after such a long run, so he's going to drink it, eat water. He's going to drink the water pretty slowly. So that would be a good contrast sentence. Okay, but we're not going to only deal with contrast because there's a lot of things in life that don't have opposites. So the next idea would be the cause and effect relationship. So this is when one part of a sentence, paragraph, etc. causes the other. So cause and effect. So some words that would indicate cause and effect would be sense, so, because is a good one. Anything like thus or therefore, those would work as well. So the idea is that one thing causes the other thing. So let's use the same sort of sentence with our marathon runner. So we've got a nice little thematic thing going on. Because the marathon runner was thirsty, he drank a liter of water. So in that case, in that particular sentence, he's thirsty, and what does that cause him to do? Drink a liter of water. So we have a cause and effect relationship. There's also other kinds of relationships. Those are the big two that you're going to deal with, but you also could reinforce an idea or have some sort of continuation. So let's go ahead and look at reinforcement. So when you're reinforcing, you're basically just providing a little extra emphasis. So you could say something like in fact or indeed. So the marathon runner was very thirsty indeed. He drank, semicolon, he drank 3 liters of water immediately after finishing his run. P.S. guys, if any of you do want to run a race like that, please don't do that. Please do use what the first marathon runner did and drink slowly because you will get sick. But back to ACT, you can also show a sequence. So basically, a sequence can be any number of things, but the idea is that you're demonstrating a relationship that's happening. So for instance, you could show that two things are happening at the same time. So like a parallel relationship. So that would be things like also, that would be things like and, um, moreover, furthermore, etc. So you're showing that this thing and that thing happened at the same time. So the marathon runner was very thirsty, and he realized he was also hungry, so he drank water and he ate a banana. Okay, great. So when we're looking at transitions, all the examples that I gave were within a sentence because that's a lot easier to do in terms of not having to write out 2 giant paragraphs or come up with them and have you guys listen really carefully for the transition. But you are going to see them a lot of times between paragraphs. So what you're watching out for is basically that the relationship that's happening in the sentence, paragraph, etc. makes sense with the transition word. Okay, our next error that we need to watch out for is wordiness. So the hard part about wordiness errors, and this actually goes for most of the things that are in this video, is that it's not technically a grammatical error. It's more of a style error. So when you read something on the test, the tendency is to think that whatever is written down is correct and you cannot fix it stylistically, but they actually expect you to do that. So if you read something and think, whoa, that was a whole lot of words to describe that very simple concept, good. That's actually a type of error, and that would be a wordiness error. So wordiness errors come in a couple different kind of forms. The first one is when you just have too many words. So basically, you could say something in a couple words, but you're saying it in, many more. So for instance, instead of saying, when I was the age of 10, you could just say, when I was 10. So the first sentence would be an error, and then the second one is how you would fix it. And that, going over it, is an N. It's kind of ugly looking. So when I was the age of 10, when I was 10. Okay, so that's just simply, there's too many words, but there's also different ways in which you could have too many words. So for instance, you could have a redundancy error. So redundancy error is when there are 2 words or 2 phrases that mean the exact same thing in a sentence. So what you want to watch out for is stuff like each year and annual, because they mean the same thing. Or decade and 10 years would also be an issue. Okay, so the first 2 are, I think, a little bit easier to spot than a relevance error. And again, it's the same exact idea of, for most people, they don't want to fix style errors on the test because they feel like they can't. So a relevance error is when you have words that don't pertain to the main idea or sub-ideas of any of the paragraphs. So basically, if you're checking if something is relevant, you just ask yourself, does this have to do with the main idea at all? So we're looking for things that are not random. So if it's random, then you need to get rid of it. So this, we're going to go over kind of a specific type of this, which is under writing strategy towards the end of this video. But the idea is that if you see something and it seems like it just kind of came out of the blue, it doesn't tie into the other sentences, it seems like it was just kind of dropped in there, you can get rid of it because it's wordy and it's not needed or necessary for the main point of the argument, whatever that argument might be. Okay, guys, good job on wordiness. Let's go ahead and move on.